The movie begins with Barry Allen, who happens to be none other than the Flash. Barry loves his mother a lot and enjoys her company. But unfortunately, his mother, whose name is Nora, was murdered in a home invasion when he was just a child. The scene shifts to an older Barry, who still misses Nora a lot. He stands in front of her grave and mourns her loss as it's her birthday. Barry blames himself for his inability to save her. His wife, Iris, consoles him, saying there's nothing he could have done as he was just a child. As he's standing in front of his mother's grave, Barry is informed that all his past enemies have come back. He's told about a huge break-in at the Flash Museum by Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, Heatwave, Mirror Master, and Top. Barry runs towards the crime scene with infinite speed as he's the Flash. When he gets there, he sees that the museum is in ruins. All of his enemies come out to fight him, and a battle begins. The attackers capture Barry, and that's when he finds out that his enemies have fitted multiple bombs inside the museum as well as the central city in order to demolish it. He discovers that all this is being done under the command of Professor Thawne, who's also known as Professor Zoom. Barry asks him not to eliminate the innocent people of the city, but Zoom doesn't care. Professor Zoom thinks he has defeated Barry, but much to his surprise, he's soon joined in by all the members of the Justice League. They manage to defuse all the bombs in the entire city just in time. Each and every superhero in the lead defeat the rogues while also saving them from the deadly bombs. Barry captures Professor Zoom and all the heroes celebrate their victory. Superman then takes Zoom to his prison, but that's when he warns Barry, saying that he'll be back and destroy everything. In the end, Zoom taunts Barry by saying that he couldn't even save his own mother. Barry is extremely hurt by this. Batman tries to console him and urges him not to let Zoom get to him, but he just runs off. He's still deeply affected by Nora's death. The next morning, Barry wakes up to see his boss standing over him. His boss, James, asks him to wake up because they have to catch the elongated kid. Barry is shocked to hear that. He soon discovers that the world around him has changed completely. Nobody knows who the Flash is or has any idea about the rogues. Barry is stunned to see that his powers have disappeared. He runs out of his office in a panic. That's when he runs into Nora. She's alive and well. Barry is shocked, but also happy that he has his mom by his side. He hugs her tightly, and the two walk away. Barry then tries to tell her about his identity, but she doesn't understand him at all. The only prominent superhero there is Batman. The scene then shifts to Batman fighting Harley Quinn. He asks her where the Joker is, to which she says that she doesn't know. He threatens her, but it doesn't work. Because of this, he throws her off the building they're in, but Cyborg saves her just in time. He tries to knock some sense into Batman, but he doesn't listen. Instead, Batman accuses him of acting as the president's pet. Cyborg then asks Batman for his help because the world is in danger and has fallen into war, but Batman refuses to help him and flies away because things have already gotten out of hand. On the other hand, Barry runs to Iris' office. He wants to tell her all about this confusing world, but he gets the shock of his life. Barry finds out that Iris is actually married to someone else. She has a family of her own. That's when Barry realizes that he's in a new world. In this timeline, Aquaman and his Atlantean forces have subbed most of Western Europe, while Wonder Woman has led the Amazons in conquering Great Britain. The Atlanteans and the Amazons are at war with one another after Wonder Woman brutally eliminated Aquaman's wife. Cyborg wants to end this war and thus has put together a team to do so. He plans to eliminate the two leaders and their people in order to stop the war. Having no idea of what's going on, Barry goes to visit Bruce. When he visits Wayne Manor, he is attacked by Batman, whom he recognizes as Thomas Wayne and not Bruce Wayne. Bruce has already died in this reality and Batman is now his father. In London, the famous Steve Trevor is attacked by a group of skilled soldiers. As he attempts to find out more about undercover reporter Lois Lane, he is unfortunately discovered by the Amazons. Wonder Woman stands before Steve, and so he tells her that Lois has been hiding in the Masira for about 3 months now. He is then brutally murdered by her. On the other hand, Barry desperately tries to tell Thomas about this warped reality, but he doesn't seem to believe it. Instead, Thomas begins to snap his fingers one by one. That's when Barry's uniform ring appears in front of him. He quickly retrieves his Flash costume from the ring in which it is kept, but Professor Zoom's costume comes out in its place. Barry then realizes that it is Professor Zoom who is responsible for changing history. He tells Batman everything he knows about his superpowers and the Reverse Flash. Meanwhile, in Paris, Deathstroke and Lex Luthor are working to locate Aquaman's doomsday device. They're tracking the energy trail of his new superweapon, which is a captured and weaponized Captain Atom. Lex and Deathstroke want to destroy it so that the war can end, but just then, Aquaman's forces arrive there with all their might, and a battle ensues. Unfortunately, Aquaman's forces are too strong, and everyone on the ship is killed. Back in Gotham, Barry manages to convince Thomas to help him. Thomas somehow agrees to give Barry his power back. After he comes to know that Bruce is alive in the original timeline, Batman helps Barry recreate the accident that gave him his Flash powers in the first place. It's really dangerous, but they simply have no choice. Terrible lightning strikes Barry, but instead of getting his power back, Barry winds up being severely burned to the point that he's unrecognizable. Cyborg soon learns that the president wants to back out of his plan because Batman has refused to join them. He completely abandons their plan to assassinate the leaders of the two nations and tries to find some other ways. Instead, Hal Jordan is tasked with piloting an alien spacecraft that will be conducting a bombing run on the Atlanteans. The scene then shifts to a flashback where Aquaman and Mera go to visit Queen Diana. Arthur and Diana shake hands, but it seems there's some kind of tension. At night, Mera finds Arthur and Diana in bed together. Apparently, they've been having an affair behind her back. Mera is enraged by this and goes to confront Wonder Woman the next day. But they soon start fighting. The fight ends in a very brutal way, and Diana ends up beheading Mera. This causes a war to start between the Atlanteans and the Amazons. At the same time, Bruce is killed in the alleyway instead of Thomas, which causes him to slowly descend into madness. Back in the present, a very injured Barry wakes up with third-degree burns all over his body. He starts to remember each and every event that has occurred in the new timeline, but then he realizes that his memories of the original timeline are slowly fading. In order to prevent this, the injured Barry insists that Batman recreate the accident again. On the other hand, King Arthur gets more cynical by the second and tries anything in his power to eliminate Diana and her people. He's ready to blow up the entire world just to defeat the Amazons. At Gotham, Batman hesitantly agrees to Barry's request and recreates the accident. This time, Barry successfully gets all his powers back. Despite regaining his powers, Barry discovers that he cannot travel through time like before because another speedster is drawing energy from the Speed Force as well. This is preventing Flash from gathering enough energy to break through the time barrier. In the Masira, the Amazons hunt Lois Lane down after Trevor spills all the information. Just as she's about to get killed, Lois gets rescued by the local resistance and falls in with them. On the other hand, Barry heals very soon and tells Batman that Zoom is preventing him from undoing things. To make things right, he seeks to recruit more allies, beginning with Superman, who in this world is a prisoner of the government after a large meteor crashed into Metropolis. With the help of Batman and Cyborg, they break into a bunker in which a very weak Superman is held. Flash is shocked to see him in such a pitiful condition. As they're about to break out, the government agents find them. But as they're under the sun now, Superman gets stronger and holds off the government agents. But soon he gets scared of his own power and flies off in fear and confusion. Right then, Flash falls down in pain as his memories start to collapse into one another. He is then taken to the home of Billy Batson and his foster siblings to recover. On the other hand, Hal finally reaches the Doomsday device, but fails to destroy it. Arthur begins planning the final battle between the Atlanteans and the Amazons after learning of his failed attack. Meanwhile, Barry recovers from his seizure and finds out that the final war has begun. Batman gives up, saying there's no going back now, but Flash somehow convinces him to join them in an attempt to stop the war. A whole team gets ready to fight the final battle. They head to England first, and on the way there, Batman shows Flash an intercepted message from Lois Lane about a super speedster whose image she captured. Flash instantly recognizes the speedster as Zoom. As they wonder why Zoom would let Lois live if she saw him, Batman's jet is shot down by the Atlantean army and a massive battle begins. Bombs and bullets start pouring down. Lois and the Resistance join the battle too, and the bloodshed begins. Arthur and Diana start fighting, and it seems they have no intention to stop. Flash and Cyborg arrive just in time to stop the two metahumans. Batson and his siblings also combine to become Captain Thunder. They begin fighting Wonder Woman while Flash, Cyborg, and Batman take control of Aquaman. After killing Black Manta alongside Grifter, Batman is shot and gravely injured by the Ocean Master. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman also manages to defeat Captain Thunder. Just then, Zoom reveals himself and Barry attacks him. The two fight midair and Zoom defeats Barry. Grifter is killed by the Amazon warriors as well. That's when Thawne explains that Barry himself is responsible for changing the timeline. He continues by saying that when Barry went back in time to save his mother, it caused the fabric of reality to fracture. The reality got warped enough to change every incident by a little. Barry is shocked to know all this and doesn't know how to process the fact that it was him all along. The battle continues around them. Wonder Woman uses her lasso and forces Captain Thunder to transform back into Batson, killing him. Just then, Superman arrives on the scene, but it's too late. He cuts off Aquaman's arm but fails to save Cyborg. Because of this, a wounded Aquaman gets defeated by Diana. All of his army has been slaughtered. In turn, he gives the order to trigger the Captain Atom bomb. The bomb explodes, and the world starts to get decimated by it. Zoom mocks the Flash as the explosion rips through the land. Batman, on the other hand, shoots him in the head and kills him, allowing Flash to enter the Speed Force. Before dying, Batman urges Barry to fix everything and gives him a letter addressed to his son, Bruce. Barry takes the letter and races back in time. There, he sees his past self and stops himself from preventing his mother's death. A bright light appears and Barry reawakens at his desk. He notices that everything has gone back to normal, but now he's on another timeline with many alterations. The superheroes, including him, have slightly different costumes now. After making sure everything is back to how it was, Barry visits Batman to tell him about everything that occurred and gives him the letter from his father. Batman gets really emotional and thanks Barry for the letter. He then runs off as the Flash to save the world from any more catastrophes. In a short post-credits scene, before the Justice League has even formed or met, a boom tube opens in space above Earth and a massive battalion of Parademons emerge from it.